Hey guys, it's Corey here from Fuel Your Photos, and in this video I want to talk a little bit about some considerations for deleting content from your blog. So maybe you have hundreds of blog posts and you just need to clean up your site a little bit. Maybe you want to remove some posts from a location where you may have lived before, but now you've moved to a new location and you're trying to optimize for some new keywords. Maybe your server is getting really full if you're on a hosting plan with a limited amount of space and you're just, taking up a lot of space. Maybe your style has changed and you don't want some of your old blog posts anymore. And I want to give you some things to consider before you just go and delete a whole bunch of blog posts. Although I do believe from an SEO perspective that this thinning out or cleaning up your content can actually have a really positive effect on SEO and on your ranking. So as long as you follow some of these rules, I think that you are all set to go on deleting some of your old content in most cases. But keep in mind that the things that I'm going to talk about here are a little bit subjective. It depends on the situation. So I can give you some ideas and some pointers and some things to check, but that doesn't mean that these exact steps are going to work for everyone. Plus, I'm going to use a few tools that are kind of pro tools, and you may have to kind of figure out a way to do this if you don't have access to those tools. But anyway, let's just go ahead and look at some of the things. We'll start with some of the basic things that you might want to look at. So I'm using Matt's site here, mattdruin.com. He actually asked a question in the group about removing some old content. And so I'm going to actually use his site as an example. He gave me access to his Search Console and Google Analytics so that I could look at those. Another thing that we're going to reference here is his XML sitemap, his post sitemap in particular. So Matt has about 393 posts here to be exact. And so we can use, if you have Yoast installed and you're using the Yoast sitemaps, then you will have the same URL /post-sitemap, or you can go to /sitemap and it'll take you to sitemap sitemapindex.xml, and that'll give you the option to choose the post sitemap. And if you have another sitemap, it may or may not have this breakdown. This is one of the things I actually like a lot about Yoast, is that it gives you this post versus page breakdown, and you can look at only posts. Now, if you're an advanced user, you may even want to save as, and then you can save this as an XML file and then upload that back into Screaming Frog. If you're using Screaming Frog, you can get the free version of Screaming Frog if you have less than 500 URLs to crawl, and you can just go to mode and change it to list instead of spider, and you can upload that XML file, and you can know that I actually did that here for this post's sitemap, and that'll give you the titles, meta descriptions, meta keywords, H1s, H2s, keyword count. It'll give you the size, all kinds of cool things here that you could find from Screaming Frog. Again, this is free. If you're an advanced user and you really want the details, this is a great way to look at even more information about your blog posts and some of the things about them as far as how they're optimized and things like that. So I just wanted to throw that out there. This is a great way you can do that, is just by saving this XML file and uploading it in the list mode in Screaming Frog. Okay, let's go ahead and start with Search Console. So I'm in Search Console and I'm in Search Analytics under Search Traffic, Search Analytics, and we're actually going to click on Pages. Now I'm going to actually also set this to 90 days instead of 28 days, just to give us an idea. And what this is going to do is it's going to show us the most popular pages in search engines over the past 90 days. We can turn on impressions and position if we want to. I'll just actually leave off position and just put impressions here. And we can see, this why wedding photos can take so long. This article has had 408 clicks from search engines and 14,000 impressions, which, by the way, if you want to know even more, click on that and then click back over here on queries, and you'll see how many or which terms are actually bringing people. So how long does it take to get wedding photos back? Has had a ton of impressions for this particular article. So let's go back to the full pages. But the idea here is that we're going to see the pages that are performing well in search. So we know that these are getting clicks, 125 clicks on the home page, 18 on this one, 15, 13, and so on and so forth. Now, one thing I will tell you is do not trust these numbers to be exactly accurate, especially not the number of clicks. These should give you an idea. And if they have some amount of clicks, then it might be worth paying attention to, but it's not going to be an exact number. So that's something to keep in mind. But if you go down here, you can change this from 50 rows, and you can show even more rows. Excuse me. Show even more rows if you want to. And this will show you, on down. These are all getting 0 clicks, but this will show you which pages in the past 90 days have had at least 1 click from search engines. You can click. You can just kind of look at the ones that have 1. Now you can download this. At the bottom, you just click on download, and it'll export a CSV. And I've done that here. We have Search Console clicks, and you can see, we could go down here to the ones that have 1, and we could format those however we want if you want to save everything. Now, one thing I would recommend is setting some sort of threshold for yourself. You may not want to keep everything that just got 1 click from a search engine. Maybe you do. Maybe if it got any traffic at all from a search engine, you want to keep it. Maybe if it only got 2, or maybe if it's above 10 clicks, you're going to keep it. You can set the threshold based on your own data. Some people will have a very different spread than this, where you have 50 pages that have had 30 or 40 clicks, and some people will have 95% of their clicks on just the homepage. That kind of thing happens all the time. It just depends on your information as to what the actual number will be that you end up deciding to save. But the point here, and the whole purpose of looking at Search Console, is to find out, are these pages currently getting any traffic from search engines? And if they are, maybe I don't want to delete them. All right, let's also look at Google Analytics. Now, in this view, I'm in the behavior, site content, all pages, and I've selected approximately a year's worth of data. And if you look here, we can, the same kind of thing here. I selected 5,000 rows. There's only 1,100 here to show, but these are all of the pages on the site where any visit has been recorded in the past year. Now, this is not just from search engines. This is also from social media or from referrals. So in other words, if someone clicked a link from another website, this is tracking everything. And so this is important to look at as well, because you have to remember that not all of your clicks are from search engines, and you may not want to delete a post that may be getting visits because there's a link to that post on another website. So again, this is still the most popular. That's why wedding photos can take so long. But we have some more here. Some of these are not blog posts, like pricing and contact and your team. Those are really popular here. Those are not showing up as much in search engines, but whenever someone lands on the site, those are very popular posts. All right, so there's some spam here, the share button .2. You could, if you have filters set up, you won't have those, but that's not really a big deal. You can easily kind of filter those out manually. So you can export this as well. This one time it's up at the top, and you just click on export. And I've done that here as well. Analytics visits. And you can see now, in this case, I set the threshold at 50. If it had, more than 50 visits in a year's worth of time, then I was going to recommend keeping it. But you could set that at 100 or 120, or, it had to have at least 10 per month or something like that. However you want to do it. Again, you can set your own threshold. Third thing we want to look at is, are there any backlinks coming to the site? And the place that I'm going to recommend you check that is actually in Search Console again. If we go to links to your site right here in search traffic, and then your most linked content, and click on more, that's going to show you the pages that are that have links. And you can download this table, and you'll see here I've done that and exported it as the CSV and put it into the same file. So these are all of the pages that have at least 1 link. And you may decide that even just having 1 link is enough. Sometimes that 1 link may not be from a legitimate site. It's a little bit hard to tell. Search Console doesn't give you a lot of information about this, but you can definitely check on this. If you want to check manually and see, what are some of these that, this has 4. Let's go to the next page. Some of these that have 2 links is luxury wedding albums. Who's looking at that? Google.com. Well, that's probably not a real link from Google. Like the homepage of Google didn't link here. So sometimes these links are not extremely accurate or helpful, but they can be helpful in figuring out, highschoolseniorphotographers.com might be linking to this particular post, or Blogorama might be linking to this particular post. You can check and see. This is just a tool for you to find out if there are other sites that are linking to your site. That one doesn't have any, it only has that one URL, but maybe 24 links on that single URL. Pinterest on that one. Sometimes you're not going to have really anything here to report. Like, there's not going to be anything interesting. This is the home page. This is going to have actually, real links that you might want to look at. But anyway, the point is, just be careful not to delete pages that have a ton of backlinks, or even one really good backlink. If you got featured on a major website like Style Me Pretty or something like that, and they are linking back to your post instead of your main website, like they're not linking to your homepage, but they're linking to a specific post for the session that they featured, you would want to keep that post, because that backlink to that internal page is really valuable and really hard to come by. So make sure that you're not deleting pages with backlinks. This is one tool to check. You could also use something like Moz, SEMrush, or Ahrefs to check for your backlinks. All of those are paid tools, but you may be able to get some free data looking at those. No tool, including Google Search Console, is going to give you an exact view of the number of links coming to a page. But if you combine all of them, you can get a pretty good idea. Now, don't really worry about this too much. If you haven't got any traffic, like we've looked at the past few steps, and there's no one visiting that page from any outside URL, it's not getting any visits in Search Console from search, or it's not getting any clicks or visits in Google Analytics, then you probably don't have to worry too much about whether or not it has links, unless it's something that you just know has a link from a big site. So that's the other thing. And then finally, we actually have one more thing we want to think about, and that would be internal links. Now, this is one where I used a premium tool called Sitebulb, and I did a crawl here, and we're looking at links, and then we're looking at top pages, and we're actually going to be looking at these internal links. And so essentially what this means is that this is the number of unique links that are coming to this particular page. So this Atlanta wedding photography pricing, there's 613 different pages on the site that link to this page. And you can see that's the same number for all of these, which tells me that these are probably the pages in the main navigation. And then you have some that are a little bit less. And so maybe they're in some sort of secondary navigation, or a sidebar or something like that. And then you have they get even less and less. And so the point is, there's going to be some pages that don't have very many internal links at all. This doesn't give you a complete picture, but maybe you also want to look at anchor text and figure out what's the keyword that's linking on, as far as the internal link goes, the anchor text. I would say you could get really complicated with this and worry about it too much, but it's just something to be aware of. You probably don't want to delete a blog post that has 581 links on your site. Either it's in a really valuable spot right now, maybe it's in a sidebar, a featured post, somewhere in a secondary menu. You want to figure out why it has so many links before you just go and delete it and cause a bunch of 404s or something like that. Just something to be aware of. Again, this is a Sitebulb. It's a monthly subscription tool. You could use a lot of different crawlers out there. You have to do your own research to figure out what you want to use to find this. That's the tool that I prefer to check internal links. Okay, so we have all of this information. Let's start talking a little bit about what to do with it. In this case, I actually made a secondary tab here called Don't Delete. And I just started applying some criteria to give me an idea of which posts are probably important and I don't want to delete. Now, again, you'll have to figure out what this threshold is for you. Let's just say on this time, we're going to take everything that got at least 5 clicks from Search Console, and we're going to take that and put it in the Don't Delete. And then we're going to go to Analytics, and we're going to take everything that got at least 120 clicks. We're going to put that in Don't Delete. And then let's say we go to Internal Links, and we're going to take everything that has, more than has at least 40 links pointing to it. We're going to put that in Don't Delete. That would give us an idea of, and same thing in backlinks, go in here and pick everything that has even 4 backlinks. We're going to put that in Don't Delete. After you do that, you can easily go into Excel and go into data and remove duplicates and get rid of the pages that are duplicates, so that you have a single list of pages, and then you can sort those alphabetically if you want. And then what I did even further to take it past that is I went back to the XML sitemap here, and I copied all of this into a sheet called Images here. And so this shows me the number of images on the page. Now, remember, this is a list of 144 posts that we don't want to delete. Now, some of these may be pages or categories or things like that, but at least it's somewhere in the 120 to 140 range of posts that we don't want to delete out of 390 something. So it's a little less than half of all the posts on the site that we definitely want to consider keeping. Keep in mind, you can still make a manual decision that says, even though I pulled it in this criteria to keep, I actually don't want to keep this one. I really do want to delete it. And you could still delete it as long as you know what you're doing. This is just, again, one method for coming up with a list. So this is the things that you don't want to delete. And then if you take the images number, okay, so I sorted this from the sitemap right here. I just copied and pasted this in here. And this was the number of images. And then I copied all of these and put them in this column over here. So this is a list of URLs that we don't want to delete. And this is a list of all posts arranged by the number of images. And then I did a highlight for duplicate. So I went to conditional formatting and then highlighted duplicate values. So what this is telling me is if it's in this column and it's in red, then it was found in the list of things we want to keep and we don't want to delete it. Well, now I can say anything that's in, that's not in red over here is something that's okay to delete. And if I'm sorting it by the number of images, let's say my purpose for right now is to save some space and get rid of a whole bunch of images on my site. Well, if I sort by the number of images, then I can prioritize getting rid of these that have the most images. And so if I even just look at this, let's go here. I'm just selecting a bunch here to show you what I'm talking about. Just these that had 50 images or more, I'm looking at a count of, or sum of 1,228 images that I could delete right here with just this number of posts. So, the 80-20 rule applies really well here whenever you are focusing on getting rid of the posts that are taking up the most space, instead of coming down here and worrying about getting rid of all of these images. Like, I'd have to have way more posts to even come close to adding up to that 120 if they only have 8 images or 7 images or something like that. And notice that these ones that have less images are look at these, all these that have 2 images, you have almost none of these that are in that list to keep. That's an interesting thing to know, just by, just as a side fact, like the more images made it more likely to show up on the list to keep. Pretty interesting. All right, so anyway, those are some thoughts on getting rid of old content. I know we talked about a few pretty advanced things here, but hopefully this at least helps you think through whether or not you should delete posts on your site. Again, don't take this as like, well, I passed these steps, it's perfectly fine to delete it. Use your own judgment, do your own research, and make smart decisions based on data, but also based on what you know about your business and the direction that you're going with your business. If you have questions, feel free to post in the comments and I'll try to answer them if I can.